What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN's E3 live show. The conferences are done. Now it's time to see the games. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside Ted Price, Insomniac Games.
Nice to be here.
Thank you so much for coming by. Now, last year you came on the show to show Sunset Overdrive. I gave you some crap. I was like, oh, you hate PlayStation, what the hell? Now that I've seen the game, I've read Colin's previews, thank you so much. This game looks awesome. I was blown away to watch it. I kept saying after your trailer last night and after the demo, it's so great to see Insomniac getting back to being funny and making fun games.
We're having a blast making the game, and seeing the response to it has been gratifying for all of us because we've been working, as most developers do, sort of under the radar.
Yeah, of course.
And being able to show it off has been really fun.
All right. Well, great. What are we going to see today?
Today we're going to see a mission in the later part of the game, and Ryan Schneider, our brand development director, is going to be playing through.
Okay, so if anybody screws up, Ryan is who we're making fun of on Twitter. Got it.
No, but I'm going to be explaining some of the mechanics as we go through, and we're going to be showing off some of the really cool things you can do in the game.
Okay, great. Let's see it. Let's start it up. Of course, everybody be part of the show. Tweet at IGN, hashtag E3 2014.
So here Ryan is looking out over a part of our open world, and his mission is to help out one of the friendly factions in the game called the Fargars. These are LARPers who he has met, who you've met along the way. And the LARPers have something that has been stolen by an enemy faction in the game. Ryan's goal here is to make it to this big roller coaster on the far side of an amusement park. Now, currently what he's doing is just making his way through the environment the way players will in Sunset Overdrive, and that's with velocity and aggression. This is a game where you're not hiding behind cover, popping up and scuttling from car to car. This is a game where you're grinding, wall running, bouncing, somersaulting, vaulting through the environment. And as he's moving along, he's actually building up style in the top right-hand side here. You can see the meter. Now, he's on the edge of the amusement park where there's this little battle going on between the OD'd and the scabs. Looks like he's going to pull out his dragon pistol. This is one of our unconventional weapons in the game, and as you can tell, it creates this big array of fireworks and lights any nearby enemies on fire. But one of the things that Ryan's doing that I wouldn't advise is staying on the ground.
Ryan, stop screwing it up. Everybody tweeted Ryan.
The ground is pretty darn dangerous, and so regardless of what weapons you have, it can be a brutal place. And as you can see, the overcharged delirium drinkers, the OD'd in the game, have swarmed him. One of the things, though, we like to say is that fun trumps realism, and here we're having a little fun with respawns. So every time you die in the game, we bring you back in an interesting way. Now, I think Ryan's probably learned his lesson and is going to start moving through the environment in a more traditionally Sunset Overdrive way, and that's by grinding, bouncing, especially traversing on these wires around. So,
to keep moving, right? That's not what it seems like it's all about.
Notice here, he just opened a Pandora's box. This is one of the traps that we have in the game. In this case, it sent out a whole bunch of little lawn gnomes who are working on Ryan's behalf to help take out some of the OD'd. Here he's grinding along, and looks like he's going to be taking out one of the blowers in the game. This is one of our projectile enemies. There's one of our flame traps. This will do a lot of fire damage to any enemies that get near it, and it's a great way to clear out an immediate area. But as we move along, it looks like Ryan is also using a test of strength. This is another one of our environmental little tricks that you can use. He's also now at style level 3, so you can see he's just activated Chance of Thunder. This is one of the amps, the epic amps in the game that you can activate. Those tornadoes you see moving out are one of the melee amps that also get activated when he hits style level 1. As you can tell, there's lots going on here.
That's my favorite thing. You're trying to call out little things like tornadoes, but it's sensory overload of color and action.
Well, there's a ton of depth when it comes to the combat, and a lot of this is based on not just the traversal and what you can do with traversal, but the style that you're building up and the amps that you can craft and then attach to both the heroes and your weapons. Add to that all of the environmental interactions that we've got going on, and it gives you a lot of options as a player in terms of how you approach combat in the game. And that's important because these enemies are tough.
Yeah.
Now, it looks like Ryan's taken out one of our other guns, Freeze gun, and is using that in conjunction with the tornado spin and the Chance of Thunder to clear out the area. Still, it's a dangerous place to be if you're on the ground. Now, even more dangerous are some of our larger enemies in the game. This is the Herker. The Herker is a former construction worker who mutated around a big digger arm.
Well, that sucks for him.
And unlike most enemies you'll see, big enemies you'll see in games, this guy is actually pretty darn agile. And even though Ryan is up here, this guy's going to chase him down. He can climb on buildings. He can chase Ryan. He can throw these giant boulders. Okay, Ryan should probably leave this area. And this guy is also susceptible to fire-based weapons. So if Ryan uses the propane launcher, which he's been using, or perhaps the flaming compensator, okay, so use a TN Teddy. That's another one of my favorites. This is
Colin Moriarty's favorite weapon too, he's telling me.
Yeah, and for anybody who doesn't know, this is a fire extinguisher with a funnel strapped to the front where a little cute teddy bear sits inside the funnel, but strapped to the teddy bear's belly is dynamite. So you throw him out and he squeals for a while and then he blows up.
Sounds like a fun time
Yes,
for him.
lots of puffs of
Now that you have a
cotton.
chance to breathe, because there's so much happening in your game, Aaron tweets at me and he says, what were some of the inspirations and ideas behind this gameplay?
Well, one of them was that we wanted to change the rules for shooters.
Right.
And I think we along with, we've been making shooters for a long time. And as I said earlier, most people tend to use cover and move pretty slowly through shooters. We wanted to change things up by allowing the player to be hyper agile.
Yeah.
And to move through this big open world in a very different fashion. So an example of that is here with this particular mission. What you see here is that Ryan has made it to this giant roller coaster at the end of this amusement park, and he's grinding along the rails in an attempt to take out these scabs, this enemy faction who has sort of made their home in this pseudo castle in the middle of this roller coaster. So he's taking out the roller coaster cars, he's destroying some of the towers here, all in an effort to get to the Scab King, who has made his residence in one of the central towers of the roller coaster. But again, the opportunity for us was to change up how people play shooters.
Sure.
And it's not just about the velocity here, it is about the wide assortment of unconventional weapons that you have in the game.
Well, that's been your hallmark forever, right? When I was watching it and people were like, oh, it reminds me of Jet Grinder, it reminds me of, I'm like, to me, I was like, this reminds me of like the adult version of Ratchet and Clank. There's grinding, there's crazy weapons, there's all these things that you expect from Insomniac games.
But it's wrapped in a more mature tone.
Exactly,
in the game.
exactly.
We're definitely poking fun at a lot of social conventions in the game. As you get deeper into the game, you see lots of tongue-in-cheek but sophisticated jokes when it comes to how our society operates.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest is our view of the end times is very different than what we've seen in other games and movies and TV.
Which is great, right? I thought that was so awesome after the preview event when you guys talked about you're making the apocalypse fun again.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
This is not the apocalypse. This is your awesome apocalypse. And a good example is this character right here, the Scab King. You know, this is one of those guys who you meet in the game, and is a great example of just us having fun with and poking fun at just archetypes that we've been seeing over and over in games for so long. So, coming up, it's not just about the single player. We're going to show you some of our multiplayer.
God, that's awesome. That's the whole thing. I mean, so when you talk about multiplayer, what is it? You announced one of the modes this time around at E3.
This is called Chaos Squad, and what we're showing at E3 is just a small part of Chaos Squad.
Yeah.
The way it works is it takes place in the same open world that the campaign takes place in. You join 7 friends to go on a series of randomized missions, and it all culminates in this explosive capper called Night Defense, which we're showing on the floor at E3.
Gotcha.
But as you're moving through these missions, you and your team get to vote on which mission you're going to take next. And so you're going through this sort of tree. And the vote makes a difference because you always have a choice of earning more chaos or better team bonuses. And both of these come into play in the final Night Defense.
Okay.
If you have a high chaos level by the time you've gotten to Night Defense, it's actually harder. But you get the chance for even better rewards at the end of Night Defense. If you have gone for higher team bonuses, you may get a boost to your weapons, your traps that you're placing, to your health. But it's a little easier, and you get rewards, but they're not as cool. Now, the rewards come in the form of these really cool spinners, which we're not showing at E3, but you can win weapons, amp recipes. Amps are the crafted power-ups we have in our game. Cash, overcharge, vanity, lots of cool stuff. whatever you win, you actually bring back into campaign.
Okay.
And whatever you're earning in campaign, you bring over to Chaos.
So they're
Squad.
separate modes. They're not crossing over in the way of like people are jumping into my game and screwing with stuff, or am I getting ahead of how multiplayer works and you're only talking about this one thing?
You can matchmake with friends. You can actually join other people in the game. And what's cool is you don't have to exit to a lobby. You're actually walking into these photo booths in the campaign and choosing to start a Chaos Squad round.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Now, what I liked about the demo when you were going through it there is that we saw the character going around, and the character didn't look like the character we've seen in the other. Like, we're able to customize, right?
Absolutely. This is all about you. This is about who you want to be. And so in the very beginning, you choose your gender, you choose your ethnicity, you choose your body style, you choose your hairstyle, you choose the vanity, and at any time in the game, you can also change that.
Nice.
Tons and tons of options to change things up. And in fact, here at E3, we're showing just some of the ones that our designers came up with for fun on the floor. And if you go and play Chaos Squad, you'll see just some examples of just us having fun with clothing, with body types, with just how our characters look. But again, it's the player's choice.
How much does it mean to you to be able to show this game? We were talking a second ago, about how like for E3, it's like you guys finally get to breathe. But last year, you came out, I remember, and we're like, hey, we have this new game, here's the trailer. And then you came on the show and you're like, well, I can't show anything or really talk about anything. Now you're finally here. What's that like?
Well, it's really fun to watch people play.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best for us at Insomniac, when we can see how people pick up the game and how quickly they become comfortable with the controls and dive into this, what we think is a very different way of playing shooters.
Yeah.
For us, it's fun to watch people bouncing around and going, oh, this is different. Oh, I can actually fire at enemies while I'm grinding, hanging upside down from a power line. That's really different and cool.
Yeah, that sounds
and people
awesome.
get it. That's what's fun for us.
All right, well, you brought this multiplayer demo. Let's see that as well.
All right.
I'm stoked to see any more Sunset Overdrive, as much as you'll show us.
So it's appropriately named. Chaos Squad is chaotic. There's a lot going on when you have 8 players out there using these very over-the-top weapons and using traps that you can earn in the game to place around your fortifications in this final part called Night Defense. During Night Defense, which is mostly what we're showing here, there are lots of OD'd, overcharged delirium drinkers, swarming your area to try to get at your overcharged vats.
Okay.
These big vats of overcharge, which you're using for crafting in the game.
Okay.
And if the OD'd get into your base, they will start drinking it. And when they drink it, they start mutating further. You actually have enemies called poppers, which are the base OD'd, which we see here, becoming even more lethal, more faster, and really dangerous up close. You can see some Herkers in there who are also swarming the base. They'll come in and take out the barriers so that the smaller OD can get in. The Herkers will also throw the smaller OD over the barriers into the base, which creates yet another strategic challenge for you and your team. One of the other fun things about Chaos Squad and Night Defense is that as a team, you really are working together to make sure that the OD aren't taking all of that overcharge. But there is absolutely a competitive aspect to the game as well, because
who kills the most or who does the most damage or level?
Yeah, and in different missions in Chaos Squad, you will score points for doing different things.
Okay.
Whether there are we have scavenger hunts in the game, we have combat missions, we have traversal missions. We use all of the various mechanics that we're building in the game to vary things during Chaos Squad, and of course you're rewarded for it, and it's pretty satisfying to be on top of the leaderboards when you're doing that.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So the question I have then, watching all of this, it looks like awesome chaos and craziness, and there's a story. Like, what are missions? How is this all coming together to make it where it's more than just running around a playground and blowing things up?
Well, that's a good question. what we're showing here at E3 is pretty explosive, over-the-top action, but it's all driven by a story. It's all driven by called an emotional journey that the main character is taking, even though it's you choosing what you want that character to look like. And it is a story that's driven by really 3 themes. The first is what happens when corporate greed runs amok.
Like that'll ever happen.
No, it probably doesn't ever in America. But and to give you more specifics, Fizco is this mega corporation who's developed a drink called Overcharged Delirium XT. It's this new energy drink, and it's about to go out to the rest of the world. But they've pushed it through FDA testing or FDA approvals, and maybe it's not quite ready. Regardless, they have this giant party, this opening party in Sunset City, where they're headquartered. And everybody's having a blast, except you, because you're basically picking up trash as a sort of a menial job.
Art imitates life.
And what happens is everybody who drinks overcharged begins to mutate into these OD, the overcharged delirium drinkers. And all they want to do what they want to do more than kill you is drink more overcharged.
Right.
So the next day, the city is just overrun by OD'd, and it's not a great situation. However, you quickly realize that this is not the end of the world. That crappy job you had, you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
That music you want to play as loud as you want, you can do it now. You can be who you want to be in the city. This is no longer the apocalypse.
Sounds the way it should be.
So the story continues. You meet factions throughout the game who help you uncover what's going on with Fizco and help you save the city.
Okay, great. Well, I don't want to save the city.
Maybe you just want to have fun. It's an open world, so there are tons of missions, challenges, quests that you can go on. As I mentioned before, there's this big crafting system where you can start customizing how your weapons work, how your character works in the game in terms of combat.
Right.
There's a lot to do and a lot to discover.
It sounds like it. I mean, like, how do you define this game? Is it third-person action? Are you saying it's an RPG? Where are you putting it?
We're calling it a third-person open world game.
Okay, wow. How many hours of gameplay? Because the kids are tweeting at me asking me how to ask that question.
A lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, we know that when you have an open world game, you need to fill it up, and there's a lot to do. And all of it, and I think one thing that we were able to show today is there's still a very handcrafted feel for all the missions in the game. So when you're going on a big mission, we like to draw on our heritage of making, call it linear games.
Yeah.
Ratchet and Clank, the handcrafted feel for those missions is very Insomniac. And so all of our missions have unique mechanics, unique story driving them. So as players go through, we're always trying to surprise them with what's coming next.
All right. Well, when is Sunset Overdrive coming?
October 28th.
Oh, it's got a real date and everything.
Got a real date.
Real. All right. Well, Ted, thank you so much for coming
Pleasure.
by. Looks amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just getting this live show started. Of course, the conferences are done. It's time to look at the awesome games. So you need to keep it right here for the rest of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday you're allowed to talk to your loved ones again. We'll be coming back soon with Fable Legends. Stay where you are.